college leaders, my name is Corbin Garner. I'm the student pastor here at Grace Fellowship. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you so much for spending some time with us for Break Weekend. Break Weekend is the biggest event that we will do all year for our students here at home. Of course, we've got camps coming up this summer, but here at our home, this will be the biggest event that we do, and you are one of the most important and crucial pieces of the weekend. You're wondering, okay, what role do I play? I'm just a college student. You see, these students desire connection, they desire relationship, and for some reason at weekends just like this, when they have a college leader come and step into their life, things change. They begin to open up, they begin to talk, they begin to have discussions that maybe they've never even had before. So thank you for coming. Thank you for being a part of what we are believing is going to be an incredible weekend. What we are believing is going to be something that when we look back in 5 years from now, we say, what changed with our student ministry? It was Break Weekend 2022. So thank you for volunteering and thank you for coming to be a part of the weekend. For just a couple of minutes, I wanted to share with you a little bit about the weekend, but also hopefully give you a couple tips that will help you win with your group. The first thing I want to mention to you is just the theme of the weekend. The theme of our weekend is going to be called Rewritten. The idea this weekend God gave me over a year ago before we even had Break Weekend in 2021. And the idea of Rewritten is that God wants to rewrite your past. So many students come into this building, they're going to come into this weekend having past shame and guilt from decisions that they made, or maybe things that have happened to them that were outside of their control. Things in their past that have been hindering them and keeping them from experiencing all that God desires for them in their life. John chapter 10 verse 10 says that Jesus came to give us life and life to the fullest. And our hope is that every student who walks into our doors throughout the year, especially at Break Weekend, will leave understanding that God has a plan for their lives and that He desires for them to experience the fullness of everything that He created them for. Our second session is going to be about how God wants to rewrite our relationships. And we're not just talking romantic relationships, although that will be a part of the discussion. However, God wants to rewrite the relationships that we have on our sports teams, at school, within our families, within our communities. And so we want them to know that they have a sphere of influence around them. People who, whether they believe it or not, are listening to them. They're hearing them. And we want them to be empowered to go out and allow God to rewrite the relationships that they have, that they can begin to be used to influence and impact a group of people or certain individuals for the gospel. And then our last session is going to be how God wants to rewrite their future stories. Now we want them to feel empowered when they leave this weekend, that when they leave this place, that God has a plan specifically for them. It's going to be at this session and maybe even at the couple others prior to it, that they're going to have an opportunity to respond to the gospel. But we believe here that if we want to allow God to begin to use our futures, we have to begin to give God our lives now. Again, there's going to be students from all walks of faith, some who it's going to be their first time in the building of a church, some who have been attending church for the past 12 years of their lives. But either way, they have next steps that they can take with Jesus. If their first step this weekend is going to be following Jesus for the first time, then we hope that that decision's made. It's why we do this weekend. But for those who have been following Jesus for some time, we want them to know that it's their time right now at the beginning of 2022 to commit their year, to commit their life even deeper to following Jesus. And that when we allow Jesus to begin to move and work in our lives, He will begin to rewrite our future stories. And so we're going to hit our past, we're going to hit the relationships that are so important to us, but we're also going to talk about the future of what God wants to do in our lives. And so that's our theme for the weekend. I hope that you're excited about it as I am. I believe that God's going to do an amazing work through our speaker, Greg Wells. If you joined us last year for Break Weekend, you got to hear from Greg each of our sessions last time, and he's going to be back with us this year. So now I just want to take a few moments now that we've talked about what the weekend's actually going to be about, and I just want to share with you a couple of tips for leading your group well. If you're anything like I was in college, during the spring semester specifically, each and every year, I spent most of my weekends going from D-Now or student weekend to student weekend. And you may be the same way. Maybe this is number one of your stop on the year, or maybe this is number 2 or 3 already. Regardless, I want to share with you a few things that I've learned to be super impactful and to provide my group the best chance of success. The first thing that I would love to encourage you with is to find an opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with each and every student that's in your group. Maybe your group only has a few kids, and so it's easier for you and your co-leader to take times to spend with each and every student. And we hope that you do that throughout the time at the host homes or when you're up in the church just hanging out, whatever it may be, but find opportunities to have conversations with them, build trust with them, ask them about the sports that they're into, the video games, the whatever it is that's going on in their life. Talk to them about that. It's those moments where you talk about things that maybe even aren't Jesus related that really begin to build trust, so that whenever you dive into those deep conversations of past or relationships or their future, that you're really able to speak into their life in a real and powerful way. And that comes when you build trust with students. And I think that the best way to do that is when you engage those kids in a one-on-one conversation. So have those conversations with them, and I promise you it's going to be wild to see how much they open up to you. The second tip that I want to give you is that when you enter your first session on Friday night of small groups, when you get back to the host homes, I always find it as a really good tool to just have some kind of icebreaker conversation, a question. For those of you who may be more on the guys side of things, I know that girls are a little bit more cautious with this, but the number one best icebreaker that I've ever had with a group of guys is I grab a roll of toilet paper, I set a chair in the middle of the circle, and I tell each and every person to get up, go sit down, and show us how you wipe. Are you a folder? Are you a water? How much toilet paper do you actually use? And it's you might be thinking like, oh, that's so weird. Why would I ever do that? But for some reason that builds trust, because they realize that we can have fun. And one of the things that we believe here is that fun tears down walls so that Jesus can enter those places that they've never let anybody come, and he can begin to impact their lives. It's why at each of our sessions we're going to start them off with games and things that will hopefully break down the walls, so that when we enter into our time of singing, or whenever Greg gets up to speak, those students are more receptive to experiencing and to hearing the gospel. The third thing that I want you to be aware of is that students are going to have as much fun as what they see their leaders having. And so this is why it's so important for us to have college leaders at a weekend like this, not only to lead small groups when you get back to the homes, but to be our hype man, be the people that are the most hype in the room. Because whenever I look around at groups and I see them just like sitting there and not really engaging, a lot of times it's because they don't really see their leader engaging with them. And so one of the things that I would encourage you to do is to be the most hype person in the group. Be the most hype person in the room, so that your students see it and they begin to realize like it's okay to let loose and to have fun at church. This place isn't a building where you just have to go and be bored or whatever it may be, but they can also experience the best weekend of the year. The last thing that I want to encourage you with is that this weekend isn't just for these middle school and high school students. This weekend's also for you. You may be wondering why it is that you were asked to even be a part of this weekend, but here's what I know to be true, that you're not here by accident. It's not some fluke of a draw that you ended up being a part of this weekend as a leader. So I believe that even for myself, for every single one of our leaders that's going to be here in the room, but also specifically for you as college leaders, I know how difficult college can be. You've got papers, you've got classes, you've got friends, you've got your future that you're trying to balance and trying to figure out. And I know that all of that can be exhausting. So my hope is that in the midst of hanging out with middle school and high school kids for a weekend, that you find an opportunity to rest. You find an opportunity to experience Jesus for yourself. So take the time to spend in worship. Take time to really focus in on the message, and that when you're having conversations with kids, like, these conversations aren't just for them, they're for you as well. And so I want you to know that this weekend isn't just for them, it's for you. And I hope that you find this weekend extremely, in a way, restful because you experience Jesus, but I hope you also find it encouraging for your soul and for your life. Again, thank you so much for being a part of Break Weekend. When I say this, I don't mean it lightly, that we couldn't do it without you. And I'm very grateful and thrilled to know each of you. Those of you who I've already met before, I hope to know you more. But it's going to be an incredible weekend. I hope you're excited for it. Please be in prayer with us. Pray that God would begin to open up conversations with students right now, that their hearts would be prepared over the next week and a half to experience Him and to experience real conversations. I believe that God's going to do an amazing work. He's already begun doing amazing things through the student ministry over the past year. And I believe that we are only hitting the tip of the iceberg of what He wants to do. How do I know that? because I believe that his word is true, that he is going to do an incredible work in the life of these students, that he will do immeasurably more than we could ever hope or imagine. And we're hoping and imagining for big things. We're hoping and imagining that students trust Jesus for the first time, or that they walk closer with him and they begin influencing their friends, their families, their communities towards Jesus. Thanks for being part of the ride. It's going to be amazing. We can't wait to hang out with you soon.